Welcome back to the Pursuit of Progress, where we explore real estate, self improvement, and how to get better every single day. I'm Ben, and as always, I'm here with my co host Adam. Today, we're talking about the micro habits that don't look flashy, but completely changed Adam's life from his income and his net worth to how he thinks, feels, and leads his day. These aren't hacks or gimmicks. They're boring looking, consistent habits that have compounded over time into real freedom. And today we're going to give you the top 8 that actually move the needle. Adam?
What is up, you guys? And I know we said that this were things that have changed my life, but really these are things that have changed both of ours. So I just want to clarify that. Sorry for not writing that out correctly, Ben, for our intro today. But yeah, man, I'm really excited to just kind of go through these. Actually, Ben, you're the one that prepared a lot of these for us for this episode. And when I was just reviewing them earlier and just kind of thinking through what I wanted to contribute on this episode, I think you really hit the nail on the head and have some really good micro habits here that not only can help with people's success and self growth and just overall improvement in their lives. I think it's also just something that can, I think more specifically, help contribute to more freedom. And that's where I think we're really focusing today's topic on is habits that can improve and can build out that freedom of your life. And that's something
Yes.
that I think has more value
Yeah.
than almost anything else nowadays is that freedom.
And to me, when you're talking about freedom, that's what wealth is. It's
Definitely.
not the flashy car or the designer handbag. It's having the freedom to control your time, to control your energy, your income, your assets, all of this stuff. You get to choose, you're in control.
Hmm. Before we kind of dive into these 8 specific habits, I'd like to just share with you guys a quote that I found from James Clear. James Clear is a very relevant guy in today's just kind of self improvement space. And he wrote, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." That's what today's episode is all about, you guys. It's about building simple, repeatable habits that make progress automatic. So, again, his specific quote: you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And I've been just kind of aware of this myself recently, just with building out a lot of processes, systems, things within my business, with just how I'm staying organized, how I'm kind of leading myself to growth with different aspects of my business as well as my personal life. And I think these micro habits are also going to do the same thing for you guys as far as building out that freedom and also just helping you guys get 1% better every single day. So, Ben, let's just kind of dive right into it. Share with us kind of this first of 8 micro habits that you put together about the freedom flex.
Yeah. Well, micro habit number 1 is the freedom flex. And it's kind of what I just touched on. If you watch social media is going to try and convince you that wealth is about material things, the cars and the watches and the private jets and the designer clothes and everything else. But that's not what wealth is. That's not what freedom is. It's about controlling your time. An example of someone who I think does a phenomenal job of this is my brother. And his business, one of his primary businesses is he does dumpster rentals in Oklahoma. And so he has an inventory of dumpsters that he'll let folks come and rent for him. Some will rent for the day, they'll rent for weeks, they'll even rent for months. And he has about an hour and a half in the morning that he goes down to the yard and checks these dump rentals out. And then he'll go back for about an hour in the evening to check them back in, the ones that are scheduled to come back. And he has the rest of the day to free up, to do whatever he wants. So he has total control over his day. Some days he'll go substitute teach at his kid's school. He might take his kids out to lunch. And it's such an unorthodox kind of job compared to the 9 to 5. He's also a real estate investor and does all these other things, but he has total control over his time. And when you do that, that's freedom. He gets to choose how he spends his time and how he spends his days, not the other way around. And that's and as I've gotten older, a little bit more mature with my wealth building and management of my cash flow, I don't think of money as like, what can I go spend this on, or what can I go buy? How can this bring me more peace? I really focus on being 42 years old now. Like, peace is one of the most important things in my life. Have you ever experienced financial stress?
I do every day still. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can keep you up at night. It's always when you're experiencing that, it's just always kinda around. It's hovering over you. It's always there. And it can take some of that peace away. So learning to when you can control how you define wealth and how you define what's important, peace is not as flashy. You can't advertise it as much. And that's why those other things are you see so much of it because it's easy to take a picture of a Rolex and flash that or in front of the sports car. But I have learned to value my peace a lot more.
Absolutely. I agree, man. So the second micro habit is the energy audit. And this one is just about kind of looking in the mirror, kind of taking an audit of yourself and understanding what kind of inputs you have currently in your life. What kind of people are you around? What kind of apps, are you on social media all day? What are you consuming? What kind of conversations are you having? What are you surrounding yourself with? This is something that I am, just to be full transparent with you guys, I think I need to really work harder on this one. I think social media is one that can really kind of consume people, and that I'm guilty of that for sure, especially if you're unsure of what to work on next, or you don't have as much direction on your day. Maybe somebody out there that's similar to myself with my career, where it's a fairly kind of choose your own adventure. Every day I wake up and it's up to me to decide what I want to work on and what I'm motivated to try and accomplish that day. And sometimes when you have too much of that freedom when it comes to what you're working on, you can go down those distraction rabbit holes, and social media and apps are a big one. But just really understanding, though, by doing the self audit, you can cut out what we call energy vampires, just people that are takers and not givers. Or another example is an episode we did last year on propellers and anchors. You want to surround yourself with people that are propellers, that are pushing you forwards, as opposed to people that are anchors, that are just kind of holding you back and pulling you down. If it drains me, it doesn't stay. It's not something that I want to have long term in my life if it's just a constant pull or like an anchor weighing me down.
Yeah, and speaking of energy vampires, I mean, have you ever had the friend or the associate who just kind of takes and takes and takes, and they're always looking to take, or maybe they're just very high maintenance, or whenever they walk in the room, there's always drama, or they're always talking, they're always talking negative, and it's just so exhausting. It's like I can feel that without even you saying a word. It's just like I'm getting worn out just by your body language.
Yeah, you learn pretty quickly to cut those people out if possible. And I've we've talked about this in other episodes too, but sometimes that can even be people that are really close to you. It could be family members, it could be even a spouse or a significant other. I mean, it's important just to understand that, you can still have those people in your life. It's just, at what level, or at least, being very strategic about when you're surrounding yourself with those people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's move on to micro habit number 3, avoiding lifestyle creep. And this is such a big one. I can't tell you how many times being in the mortgage world, I just see lifestyle creep just take total control over, someone or husband and wife. And, the reason for that is because in our American culture, we're a consumer based economy. We're taught to think a certain way. We are taught to think that we need the best of everything. And, people want to make more so they can spend more. And when you have that philosophy, that is such a mistake. And, learning to have the discipline and the maturity to use your increase in income to build your wealth and not upgrade your lifestyle. Learning to flex harder with freedom and not things. An example that I'll give is, I bought my current home in 2015, and as my income has gone up over the years, I'm still in the same home. I have not upgraded, and the reason for that is because I want to be able to do other things. I want to be able to invest my money. I want to be able to spend more time with my family and go on vacation. And the car that I drive is not new. It's a 2015 or 2016, and it looks nice from the outside, but the reality is it's not that expensive, and my mortgage payment is very, very affordable. So I had the opportunity to upgrade these things over the years, and I could have easily done that, and I still can. But I've learned that I value that financial piece. I want to have control. I don't want to feel like I'm obligated to a car payment of $1,500 a month. One of the things that has always stood out to me is just how many Americans have an abundance of auto loan debt. I've seen folks have, I was working with an individual several years ago, but he had 5 auto loans, and the total monthly payments on those auto loans was like $7,500. And that's on one extreme, but what's very normal? A 600, $800 monthly auto loan, having multiple car payments. And those are the things that ultimately, when you say yes to the auto loan payment and you say yes to the material things, what you're really saying is no to your future. You're saying no to freedom. You're saying no to peace.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. Just being able to lay your head down at night and not have that pressure and anxiety of being over leveraged and just worrying about even being able to pay for that stuff, to the point of maybe not even enjoying it as much as you would if you maybe delayed that gratification for a few years. And it's still okay to buy the car if that's something you're really into. I know I love cars, but there's a time and place for that, and at least just having the mental stamina to hold off on certain things if the time isn't right. So that's a big one.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned too. So like I'll take that same approach like with my vacations too. I will fully pay for my vacation before I even spend day one on it. So before I get on the plane or hop in the car if we're doing a staycation, that vacation is totally paid for. Because it's not fun to come back from vacation and then realize that you are several $1,000s in debt, or you have to make multiple payments over the next year or several years to get it paid off. You don't enjoy it as much. You take something that was supposed to be a blessing and it turns into a burden.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Blessing and burden. I think we need to do an episode just on that specifically. Let's
Let's
jump
do it.
into number 4. So, number 4 is just asking yourself, do I really need this? Simple question that kills this impulsive spending that we're talking about. $500 plus purchases, make sure you implement some form of a way to maybe control and limit your emotional, giving in to some of these desires. I know, Ben, you have one that's, I think it's a 48-hour rule, where anything that's larger than $500 of a purchase, instead of just immediately buying it, giving yourself that 48-hour time frame just to kind of let it marinate a little bit, sit, think through it. After a day or two, maybe you've thought about it and you agree that, yeah, that is a purchase I want to make. Or I bet you more often than not, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be, what, nah, maybe I actually don't need that bad. I was thinking about it, but you know, and I'll use a quick example of this myself personally. I think about January of this year, I was moving some stuff around in my house and just kind of realizing that I wanted to kind of pick up another musical instrument. So I just, started going on to guitarcenter.com and saw this drum set, and I've never played drums before. Go out, buy this $700 drum set, and right now it's taken apart and it's just sitting in my basement because my girlfriend didn't like where it was in my bedroom. I played that thing 3 times and I can't even play anything on it. So, if I would have given myself that 48-hour window, I bet I probably would have held off on that impulse buy.
Yeah, that's such a great story. I'll share a couple stories. I bought some artwork for my living room last year, and I've shared this on social media a couple times. But I just wanted to make sure I was making the right decision, and it was a little bit more expensive. It was probably around like $1,000, and nothing like outrageous. I saw it in downtown Golden, walked into the store, looked at it on a Saturday afternoon, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I'd love to have this. And I kind of thought about it, but I was like, what, I'm going to wait. And then went back the following Saturday, looked at it again, thought about it some more. And then, I ended up purchasing it, but because I gave myself the time and space, it just allowed me to kind of come up with a plan for how I was going to make the purchase happen. And it just gave me so much more confidence that I was making the right decision. And ultimately, I felt very positive about it. So instead of having that buyer's remorse, which is what we've all had, and I have plenty of examples of doing the same thing that you just mentioned. I mean, we all have. But just taking that time to give yourself the space, it'll give you so much more clarity and confidence with your decision making.
And just one last thing on this one. understanding that from the opposite perspective of anybody that's trying to sell something, the whole strategy of sales is sense of urgency. You don't want people to have that time to second guess that decision. So when you start thinking about it from a sales perspective, it makes some of the stuff a lot more clear, especially when it comes to, sales and, short-term sales where, this weekend only, Cyber Monday,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Just it's all a game.
Yeah, especially the door-to-door stuff, the, Memorial Day sale, it is all a game, and you have to realize, so it's this weekend only. It's only this weekend. It's, and same with Black Friday. That's why I'm so critical of Black Friday is, it's such a game, and people, there was a couple years ago, like I don't know if you remember this, but Black Friday was becoming normal to start that like on Thanksgiving night. And so people were literally like walking away from their families on Thanksgiving night to go get an early start on shopping. And just how toxic is that?
Yeah, horrible.
Terrible. All right, well, let's move on to micro habit number 5. Stay the course. This is such an important one. Create a clear vision and then show up daily. No chasing shiny objects, and just being consistent with the plan. And remember that progress lives in the repetition. And, with some of the things that we're doing with this podcast and some of the YouTube stuff, even in real estate and mortgage, it really is about staying the course, putting a plan together, crafting that vision, and then staying after it, showing up every day. And, I was thinking about this when you were talking earlier about you're just kind of reevaluating the plan and making sure that you're holding yourself accountable. And this mortgage market's been challenging this year, as has this real estate market. And it can be frustrating to not move as much inventory as you want, or not have as many closed loans as you want. Just dealing with that. And I would say that I'm kind of I'm experiencing that a little bit, even though like May for me was a really positive month. Like this year has been slower than I anticipated, and it is, it's frustrating. I have a desire to want to grow and build my career and feel like I'm constantly progressing. And when I feel stagnant or I'm not moving forward at the rate that I desire, it does get frustrating. But then I have to remind myself, I have to stay the course. But then what things can I implement or change? How can I improve? What can I do different my day to day? And that's I'm kind of going through that process right now, where I'm really just taking a daily audit. Where am I spending my time? How many calls am I making? Who am I reaching out to? What does my follow up look like? What systems do I have in place? And that's one thing that I've really understood crystal clear. Like those individuals that are in the top 1% in real estate, lending, really any industry, they're not just great at what they do, but it's about the systems. And that's why that quote that you referenced from James Clear is so great, because we all have goals, right? We all want to excel and be our best. Motivation is never the problem, but it's the individuals that have, that can turn their business into a machine to where it's automatic, and they have the systems and the structure set up to where there's no question what, it comes in the machine, and then you know that's how it's structured. And so that it's kind of getting to that level for me is what one thing I'm really marinating on and thinking on.
Yeah, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Just having a very clear understanding of what is actually moving the needle in your business or in your personal goals, and then just doubling down on that rather than all these other shiny objects, like you said, that aren't doing anything except distracting you and just preventing you from moving forward. So let's jump into number 6. So number 6 is get sunlight before screens. If you guys didn't know, my prior career to this was I owned a chain of tanning salons. So I know how to get sunlight both indoors and outdoors. And I was trying to make a joke, but I can't think of what else to say about that. But no, seriously, guys, the big one here is just understanding that, sunlight is natural. It's just something that is going to help with your mood, your just overall well-being. One thing that Ben and I both do is, we go to the gym every morning. What I love about this time of year, specifically in the spring and summer, is it gets light so much earlier in the day, as well as stays light so much later in the evenings. So for me in the morning, I just love how it's already daylight, even at 5:30 in the morning when I'm leaving to go meet Ben at the gym. And what we do, both of us, is we don't even have our phone on as when we go to the gym. So I don't really even look at my phone until about 7:15 in the morning. And just having this concept though of, getting sunlight before screens. It could be sunlight, it could be the gym, it could just be some sort of self-care that you're putting into place on a daily basis. Step outside, get natural sunlight. It really helps regulate your energy, improves your focus, also just gets that circadian rhythm aligned for the day. There's just so many benefits just to getting sunlight, getting fresh air. I just definitely think though sunlight before screen time is kind of getting that clarity before the chaos of your day starts to ensue and unravel.
Yeah, one thing that I started doing to help implement that, just hold myself to a little bit of a higher standard, is moving my phone out of my room. I used to allow my phone to charge on my nightstand, which was right next to me. And I moved that into the room next to me. And so now it's not even in the same room. It has its separate docking station. Because, I was getting up in the middle of the night, I'd, wake up and get some water. And then all of a sudden I'm scrolling on my phone because it was right there. And I was like, and then it's like, dude, this is such a disruption to my sleep. And so I've really enjoyed that. It allows me to sleep a little bit better. I'm waking up less frequently in the middle of the night. But then to your point, this time of year, like getting up when it's already light out and going to the gym, they have the garage door open. You have that fresh air in there. It's that morning musk is out, and there's some precipitation in the air. It's just so fun to be in that environment as the sun is rising. You're working on yourself without the phone, and that's one thing that's always amazed me. How many people are in the gym? It's like they're doing sets, but then in between sets, they're just on their phone, just scrolling through their phone, and then they go do another set, and they're back on the phone. It's terrible.
Yeah. It's one thing if you want to listen to some tunes and, kind of zone out when you're in the gym. But yeah, for me, I know myself too well where if that was me, I'd be, checking my email and just getting all of the things that are leading to my anxiety started even earlier in the day. It's just a way to kind of respect your own private time just to set the day off on the right note.
I know, yeah,
Let's jump.
you feel like you got to get up and like get plugged into that stuff right away and start checking emails, but you really are, because I'm the same way. Once I start looking at emails, I feel like I have this itch and I got to like start doing stuff. And I feel like if there's something that needs my attention at work, I can't be present with whoever I'm with, whether it's family, because this thing is drawing away my focus. So by not even checking it, I'm not even aware of whatever it is, and I can be totally present. And my gym time is, that's my physical health, physical fitness time, but it's also my mental, emotional, spiritual clarity time too.
And it's a time for you and me to vent to each other about what's going good or what's not going so good with our lives. So
That's
it's a
right.
good little time
Yeah.
to, yeah,
Bro time.
bro time. Yeah. So
Bro
what's number
time.
7?
All right. All right, micro habit number 7, daily gratitude journal. This is something that I started doing this year. I bought a best self planning journal, and what it is a work journal. You can really use it for anything, but one of the things in this daily journal is, there's a section on gratitude. So you write down 4 things that you're thankful for every day. And there are other components. There's a daily tracker and some other really cool things, weekly goal setting, monthly goal, quarterly goal setting. But one of the things that has had the biggest impact on me is just writing down what I'm thankful for every day. And I feel, you mentioned anxiety a minute ago about, getting some of these other emails, pressures, demands that you have in your personal life, professional life. I feel like when you are aware of what you're thankful for and you're willing to recognize it and then putting that into writing, I noticed for myself, for example, it has helped reduce my anxiety. I just feel like it's so comforting putting some of these things that I'm thankful for, just writing them down. And some of them are, they're very obvious. If you look through my gratitude journal over the last 6 months, I mean, I've probably written, about my dogs 30 times. I'm so thankful for my dogs. But just putting that down, it just unleashes, I don't know if it's the hormones or the spirit, but it's so fulfilling to do that. And it just gives you a total different perspective. And sometimes with the demands of this industry and our market, the challenges that we face, it's so easy to get stuck and focused on those, and forgetting about or not wanting to acknowledge all that we have to be thankful for. And so no matter how big or small, no matter how my day is going, that's something that I've incorporated. And I have to say, it's been like, for me, it's been life changing. When I don't write down what I'm thankful for, like I just don't, I can tell something's missing from that day. So I love writing down what I'm thankful for.
Yeah, it gives you that perspective of what's really important. And I know I'm just thinking of myself personally in the last couple days dealing with some work stuff that's been leading to a ton of anxiety and frustration. And if I would have been doing a better job with some of this gratitude stuff, I think it would have helped me kind of, look at the bigger picture, realize it's not the end of the world, going to get through this, focus on really what matters the most, health, family, friends, relationships, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and just thinking about where do we live? We live in the United States, and to some people, I believe it's the greatest country in the world. Some people might find that triggering. That's what I believe. I also believe that Colorado is one of the most beautiful states in our country. I think Denver is a very dynamic city. I think the area that I live in, you live in, those are great areas to live in a great state, in a great country. And so when you just break it down like that, I mean, just that right there, just being in America, living in Colorado, having access to mountains, all the things that we do, an incredible economy, the opportunity to build whatever life we see fit. A lot of people around the rest of the world, I mean, they just don't have those opportunities. And that's why so many people want to come to America, is for those opportunities. And like, we have to be aware of that and thankful for it.
Go even further, man. I think we live in the best planet.
Definitely the best one in our solar system.
Yeah. All right, guys. So number 8, review goals daily. And Ben actually has a little bit different way of doing this than I do. Ben does it with his bathroom mirror, which I think is a really smart, clever way, just because, hopefully like most of you guys as well are, fairly good with your hygiene, and you're, in the bathroom fairly regularly in the morning and at night, brushing your teeth, getting ready for the day, ending your day, all that good stuff. It's just a visual reminder that's unavoidable. If you're looking in the mirror, you're going to see it. And it's just a way to, kind of subconsciously remind yourself about some of these daily goals that you've got. Another way to just kind of hopefully beat some of the digital distractions on your phone, and just seeing your goals first thing when you wake up and also right before you go to bed. I think there's definitely something to be said about manifestation, and when you're putting and feeding positive stuff into your brain first thing in the morning, and also when you're going to bed, I think it's kind of marinating in your brain overnight, and also throughout the day. It's kind of a subliminal thing that you're probably, maybe not aware of, but you're thinking about it in some sense throughout the day, just reminding yourself why you're working really hard, or why you got up extra early that morning, or whatever it may be. If the goal matters, it should be in front of your face. It should be something that you're visually seeing and reminding yourself of on a very frequent basis.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, I mean, the data is overwhelming. People that have goals and have them, in a place to kind of look at them daily, help hold themselves accountable, the chances of you hitting that goal are just exponentially higher. So number one, like, first you have to set the goals, and then you have to put them in a place that you're gonna, really look at every single day. I did some coaching earlier this year with Dan Martell, and, one of the things that he talked about is he would have his goals written in three different places. So one was his screensaver. So when he was not using his phone, his screensaver would have his goals. So he's just looking at the goals constantly. The second place that he would have a copy of his goals, so same thing, is in his car. So kind of like right on the dash right there, where he's just constantly looking at the goals. And then he had them in a third place. I think it was like on his bedroom mirror, somewhere like that. And so that's one thing that I've thought about, where if you're just surrounding yourself with your goals, and he's someone who's had a tremendous amount of success and has done multiple different businesses and ventures, and had several different exits. So that was something I learned from him that I felt was really, really valuable.
Hold on one second. I think the other producers reaching out. Oh, we forgot to do our sponsored segment of the week. Let me put that in really quick. So, guys, today's episode is actually sponsored by Roadrunner Property Care, your go-to team for hands-free property management in Tucson, Arizona. Whether you're managing a short-term rental, second home, or just a long-term investment, Roadrunner handles everything, so you don't have to. They treat your property like their own because your peace of mind is their priority. Learn more at roadrunnerpropertycare.com. That's roadrunnerpropertycare.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
We are so blessed to have two amazing sponsors, aren't we?
We are, man. I just can't believe how much financial commitment they've given us this year. I mean, we couldn't do this without them. So, really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, and we're also so thankful for our fans and listeners and everyone who is on this journey with us. And we're not the experts, you and I. We're on our own, and this is something that I remind my daughter and my kids. And we're all on our own pursuit. We're all on our own journey, and it's the so many of us get so focused on that end result. And this is one of Jim Rohn's quotes. It's not about the result, it's about who you become in the pursuit of that result. And so that's why he says you should have a goal to be a millionaire, not so you can become a millionaire, but who you will become in pursuit of wanting to be a millionaire. So the skills that you have to develop, the network, the relationships that you have to connect and create, and the way of thinking and the learning how to attract things. And that's really what it's all about. Who are we becoming on our pursuit of progress, on our journey?
Love that. Well, let's close it out with a few of our key takeaways, Ben.
Yeah. So, key takeaways for this episode. Micro habits. When you think of micro habits, these are the invisible engines behind the real change. You don't need more information, you need better systems. These 8 habits can create margin, freedom, and focus, and they can do the same for you.
Absolutely. So, you guys, if this episode helped you rethink about your habits, definitely share it with a friend. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, leave a quick review, help us grow the show, share it with a friend that you think would get some value out of this episode. And if you're really serious about designing your next level, start small and just stay consistent. That's the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, today is consistency and just understanding that this is a long game. It's not something you're going to achieve overnight. These small, daily, quick habits are really what's going to, or I say quick, micro habits are really what it's going to take to get you to that next level. Look forward to sharing a brand new episode with you guys next week. And until then, my name is Adam, as always, with my co-host Ben. We'll see you guys later.
Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.